All right, guys. So the videos you're going to see is from the Robert Greene Book Club. You can become a Robert Greene Book Club member by clicking in the description down below where it says join the book club. For just $5 a month, you guys get to listen to me break down all of Robert Greene's books, all right, in a way that's more applicable and in a way that you can apply in your life. All right, so let's begin with the video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so today we're going to be reviewing another chapter of Robert Greene's book, The 33 Strategies of War.
There is nothing worse than feeling dependent on other people. Dependency makes you vulnerable to all kinds of emotions. Betrayal, disappointment, frustration.
It's similar to, when you work at a job and because you depend on your boss to give you money, you sort of are scared. You're just more emotional. And whenever you find yourself in an emotional state where you're very reactive to somebody, it's because you depend on them for your happiness. Your brain has said, without this guy in my life, I'm going to release cortisol. When the brain releases cortisol, which is the anxious feeling that you feel sometimes, it's because it feels like it's being threatened. Its survival is being threatened. And when you when you get their validation, it releases dopamine. So you sort of begin to associate them with your survival. And that's why you feel so anxious, right? So that only happens when you fully depend on somebody, unfortunately. And our goal as the human animal is to become independent, to not depend on nobody else. That's the main goal. In other words, not to be needy. Okay, let's keep watching.
That play havoc kinds of emotions. Betrayal, disappointment, frustration. That play havoc with your mental balance. To make yourself less dependent on others and so-called experts, you need to expand your repertoire of skills. And you need to feel more confident in your own judgment. Understand.
Yeah, because usually what a person who wants you to become dependent on, the first thing they'll do is make you doubt your judgment. First of all, some of them do that through gaslighting you, or they do that through the group think, right? Another way for you to become more independent is when you depend on the group for your validation. Now, mind you, that's very normal. Humans, that kind of gene, that kind of thinking was naturally selected by evolution because it helps us. We're weak physical creatures, so we rely on the group, even though the group could abuse us, simply because by not being part of the group, we get eaten alive. Our brains calculated that even though we're getting abused by the group, we still stick with the group. Why? Because the other alternative is bad. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is that nowadays those threats aren't there. The threat of being eaten alive isn't there. But we still have that kind of, our limbic system still reacts in such a way. But your cerebral cortex, the beauty about it is that your cerebral cortex could interfere with those signals through using your rationality, through saying to yourself, I don't need that guy or girl in my life. I don't depend on that person to survive. I'm not in the jungle no more. And what's gonna happen is that the cortisol will be released, but the key to overcoming it is just to do nothing. Break up with them. See with your own eyes that you are dependent, that you could live on your own. See with your own eyes that you don't need nobody else to depend on. And what's gonna happen is that stress is what causes animals to evolve. Stress is what causes animals to adapt, and that stress will actually empower you if you embrace it. But if you run away from it by looking for dopamine, by looking for somebody to depend on, by trying to find somebody to make you feel good, you're not going to grow. In fact, you're going to grow stagnant.
We tend to overestimate other people's abilities. After all, they're trying hard to make it look as if they knew what they were doing. And we tend to underestimate our own. You must compensate for this by trusting yourself more and others less. It is important to remember, though, that being self-reliant does not mean burdening yourself with petty details. You must be able to distinguish between small matters that are best left to others and larger issues that require your attention and care. Suffer fools gladly. The world is full of fools, people who cannot wait to get results, who change with the wind, who can't see past their noses. You encounter them everywhere. The indecisive boss, the rash colleague, the hysterical subordinate. When working alongside fools, do not fight them. Instead, think of them the way you think of children or pets, not important enough to affect your mental balance. Detach yourself emotionally. And while you're inwardly
And another thing that you could do is see them as just part of nature, just like the thorns in a flower. Literally seeing them as just part of the reality that we live in, right? Another thing that you could do is to cut them down to size. Imagine now they remember, but because sometimes when we're intimidated by somebody, when we, a lot of the time is because we're not seeing them as human. And one of the best ways to humanize somebody is to imagine their mortality. Now, I'm not saying put the knife down, okay? I'm not saying that you're gonna kill them or you're gonna think about murdering the motherfuckers, okay? We're not doing that shit. Imagine their death. Imagine their loved ones that crying for them. Because when you imagine them dying and you realize that one day he's gonna die just like you, it equalizes you. Death is the ultimate equalizer, right? So that's one of the ways for you not to get too emotional when you encounter those kinds of people who annoy you, who bother you, who make your life difficult. Another thing that you could do is imagine, what was the other thing? Is simply see them as a way to learn. In other words, learn to develop supreme acceptance of human nature. Begin to want to learn about every kind of person. When you see a boss who makes your life difficult, ask yourself, okay, he makes my life difficult. Let me try to understand this person. Make it into a game. Try to make it into a game and ask yourself, what validates him? What makes him happy? What makes him sad? Where does this come from? You gotta find a way to make to rather than get emotional, open your expand the scope of your perception and just learn to take it in. Learn to accept them. If I have an annoying brother or sister or an annoying mom who's always bothering me, ask yourself, okay, let me try to learn something new today. And if they try to annoy you and try to make you do extra work that you don't like, try to see it from the perspective of trying to understand this weird human. Because if you don't think about it that way, you're just gonna get emotional. It's just that simple. And the next time he tries to fuck with you, you're like, oh, he wants to feel good about himself. Oh, that's so cute. All right, let me help him out. And you'll develop a supreme acceptance of human nature, and with that comes social intelligence.
laughing at their foolishness, indulge them in one of their more harmless ideas. The ability to stay cheerful in the face of fools is an important skill. Crowd out feelings of panic by focusing on simple tasks. When circumstances scare us, our imagination tends to take over, filling our minds with endless anxieties. You need to gain control of your imagination. Something easier said than done.
One of the best ways to control your imagination is to use NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It's a beautiful technique that you could use to let go of traumas, to reframe the way you see things. You could Google NLP techniques for any kind of problem, and you'd be surprised that there's a whole bunch of mental exercises to help eliminate emotional reactions to things that you don't want to react to.
Often the best way to calm down and give yourself such
Is to do a repetitive task. I haven't listened to this in a month, but let's see.
control is to force the mind to concentrate on something relatively simple, a calming ritual, a repetitive task that you are good at.
Right? For example, like what I like to do for my calming ritual is to write down my thoughts in a very slow and deliberate way, right? Like I have a notebook where I just write down my thoughts whenever I feel mad, whenever I feel angry, and I do it in a very slow way. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. I just write down. Another repetitive task is meditation. Like literally meditation, you just notice in your breath. You're just consciously breathing. You're consciously breathing. Like don't let it get unconscious. Don't just no, consciously breathe. Imagine that you can't breathe unless you consciously do it, right? And that becomes your whole focus, just consciously breathing. Imagine that you cannot breathe unless you do it consciously. That's a repetitive task. And your brain is naturally going to get relaxed. And your imagination is naturally going to tamper down. Because what you're doing, you're reducing your cortisol levels. You're reducing it. Meditation reduces cortisol level. Your cortisol is what alerts your brain of danger, right? And by meditation and good sleep, you reduce it, which reduces your imagination, reduces your anxiety, and helps you act more rationally.
That. You are creating the kind of composure you naturally have when your mind is absorbed in a problem. A focused mind has no room for anxiety or for the effects of an overactive imagination. Once you have revealed.
And that's why when you don't have a lot, one of the best people to make fall in love are people who don't have nothing to do. People who have their whole day free. And that's actually one of the dangers when it comes to finding somebody that you love, one of the best ways to reduce neediness is to have a busy schedule. I mean, it's as simple as that sounds, but having a busy schedule and having routines calms you down. Your brain likes to see things that it always sees. It likes to see things consistently. Like it likes to repeat things. The more you repeat something, the less your brain is active. Anything, even in sports, the more you shoot the basketball and you practice the fundamentals, you'll look at the brain of somebody who's practicing basketball at a high level, you'll notice that their brain isn't that active, which allows them to focus on higher level tasks, right? Like watching out when there's a double team, it helps you process more complex information, right? But if you're somebody that doesn't practice a certain skill, you'll notice that your brain you look at the scan of the brain and you'll notice that it's more active, even though they're doing the same thing. But because the master has done it so many times that when he does it, his brain actually calms down, right? So find a repetitive task and keep doing it, and it'll become an anchor to calm you down.
Gain your mental balance. You can then face the problem at hand. At the first sign of any kind of fear, practice this technique until it becomes a habit. Being able to control your imagination at intense moments is a crucial skill. Unintimidate yourself.
And your imagination is what causes your body to react. You got to think about it. You got to remember, the first type of thinking that people get, first of all, the first type of thinking that people get eventually is just through sound. No, it's just through emotional reactions as a kid, right? You're hungry, you cry, you're sad, you have basic emotions. And as you grow up, you begin to remember things. You begin to remember how your mom looks in terms of patterns. You begin to remember how your mom sounds, right? And that becomes the way of you thinking. A little evil little baby will think of his mom and he'll be happy. He's not going to say, I love mom, but he'll just see an image of mom, right? And so that's actually the fastest way the brain processes information, through symbols. Images are symbols. And in fact, that was the first type of information that we transmitted to each other, through symbols, right? Like through drawing. Like you think about the hieroglyphs. One of the first ways was through symbols. And words are symbols, essentially. They're literally symbols, right? So you got to control not what your mind says. If you control what you see in your mind, it will literally change the way you react. For example, I remember when I used to approach women and I was scared to approach them. What I noticed is that the reason why I was scared, it was because in my mind's eye, I was seeing them as crazy fucking majestic Medusas, like crazy majestic beings that don't fucking make any mistakes, right? But then I said to myself, okay, what happens if I saw them as my pet? Not that I treat them as my dog, but rather than imagining her as a beautiful hot girl, I imagine her looking like my dog Missy, right? And what happened is that when I would approach, it was almost like rather than seeing a projection of this super hot girl, my projection was of my cute little dog. And all of a sudden, my reaction to them changed. All of a sudden, when they said, fuck you, don't talk to me, I was like, okay, sorry. I imagine my dog being like, bark, bark. And I'm like, okay, Missy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. It doesn't hurt no more. I wasn't really reacting to the person. I was only reacting to my projections. It's your projections and what you see in your mind that causes those emotional reactions.
Intimidation will always threaten your presence of mind, and it is a hard feeling to combat. The key to staying unintimidated is to convince yourself that the
By the way, if you guys like this, please hit the like button. Let me know in the comments down below if you like this kind of format. And if you don't like it, please let me know. It's totally fine. I just want to know what's the most optimal way of teaching to you guys possible. I don't mind writing down my notes, okay? But I'm just experimenting with you guys.
the person you're facing is a mere mortal, no different from you, which is, in fact, the truth. See the person, not the myth.
Exactly, beautiful, and that's pretty much what I did with. That's actually an NLP technique. Is choosing what you see with your mind. You're pretty much controlling your mind. Just notice anybody who intimidates you. Notice what you see in your mind, and just temporarily change what you see. If you see a big evil person, imagine a cute little puppy. Maybe he looks like Father Alex. Who knows, right? And notice your reaction to them. You'll notice your emotional reaction to them is completely different.
Imagine him or her as a child, as someone riddled with insecurities. Cutting the person down to size will help you to keep your mental balance. Develop your Fingerspitzengefühl, fingertip feel. Presence of mind depends not only on your mind's ability to come to your aid in difficult situations, but also on the speed with which this happens.
I actually got to put this on this for my course. I got to update my course, Nice Girl. I'm gonna put change the way you see them to unintimidate yourself.
Waiting until the next day to think of the right action to take does you no good at all. Speed here means responding to circumstances with rapidity and making lightning-quick decisions. This power is often read as a kind of intuition, what the Germans call Fingerspitzengefühl, fingertip feel. Erwin Rommel, who led the German tank campaign in North Africa.
This guy, he sounds like he's telling you a secret you can't find out. That's what he sounds like to me. Like, it just feels like he's telling you a secret you're not supposed to know, which is kind of cool.
During World War II, had great fingertip feel. He could sense when the Allies would attack and from what direction. In choosing a line of advance, he had an uncanny feel for his enemy's weakness. At the start of a battle, he could intuit his enemy's strategy before it unfolded.
And one of the reasons why you're able to read people more when you do this strategy is because you don't have fear clogging up your perception, right? When you're afraid of somebody, when somebody intimidates you, you exaggerate their strength and you exaggerate your own weaknesses. And that's why a lot of times you lose your power.
Folded. Rommel didn't just study his men, his tanks, the terrain, and the enemy. He got inside their skin, understood the spirit that animated them, what made them tick. Having felt his way into these things in battle, he entered a state of mind in which he did not have to think consciously of the situation. The totality of what was going on in his blood, at his fingertips. He had Fingerspitzengefühl. Whether or not you have the mind of a Rommel, there are things you can do to help you respond faster and bring out the intuitive feel that all animals possess. Deep knowledge of the terrain will let you process information faster than your enemy.
And the terrain is understanding who you're dealing with sometimes, right? That means that every day, try to find something new about this person that you don't like or this person that you like. Try to do that. Try to find something different about them every single time. Don't just look at what they say to you. Listen to the tone of voice and how it goes with their words. Pay attention. You might not notice anything, but the habit of doing it, the habit of paying attention, opens up the apertures of your perceptions in ways you never thought you could do. You are pretty much tapping into your primordial abilities to read people. It's almost telepathic, to be quite honest with you. We're social primates. The human animal is a social primate. It is meant to read what other people say at an almost telepathic level if you're open to it.
A tremendous advantage. Getting a feel for the spirit of men and material, thinking your way into them instead of looking at them from outside, will help to put you in a different frame of mind, less conscious and forced, more unconscious and intuitive. Get your mind into the habit of making lightning quick decisions, trusting your fingertip feel. Your mind will advance in a kind of mental blip.
And one of the ways, another way to develop a fingertip feel is to know your field very well. This goes into the subject of mastery, which I should do this for mastery too. I really like it. It's really good. But by you studying something so much, you begin to see the bigger picture. And by you studying something so much, and not just studying something so much, but expanding what you study further than what you need, you begin to see the bigger picture, and your mind literally begins to reflect reality itself. For example, I'm coming up with my new course on male nature. So what am I doing to study this? I'm not just reading books on male nature. I'm reading books on primates, on primatology, different kind of primates. I'm gonna study orangutans. I'm gonna study apes. Bonobos. I'm gonna study chimps. I'm also gonna study different kinds of attachment styles. I'm gonna study like even books on marriage, like shit that I really don't even read, to be honest with you. I'm gonna do that because before I even write down the first thing about this course, I want to inundate myself with so much information that the soil of my mind is so rich that anything that I put will grow. And after the soil is nice and set, then I'll begin to say, okay, what am I going to talk about? But you do that after you study deeply. Then all of a sudden, whatever comes from that is going to be correct because you did the work. So to develop that fingertip feel takes time. It takes time. It takes mastery to develop that fingertip feel. And also with people. If you don't have a fingertip feel with people, it means you don't listen. You don't pay attention. Plain and simple.
Blitzkrieg, moving past your opponents before they realize what has hit them. Finally, do not think of presence of mind as a quality useful only in periods of adversity, something to switch off and on as you need it. Cultivate it as an everyday condition. Confidence, fearlessness, and self-reliance are as crucial in times of peace as in times of war. Reversal. You do not want to lose your presence of mind in key situations, but it is a wise course to find a way to make your enemies lose theirs. Take what throws you off balance and impose it on them.
That's pretty much what I teach in terms of dating advice, right?
3.
Like, I pretty much teach you guys, notice what people do to you that makes you chase, and do it on them. Plain and simple. And that will make people chase you harder. Does that make sense? All right. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's experimental video. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys enjoy it. And I'll make another one tomorrow. If this gets more than 500 likes, I'll make another one tomorrow. Okay? All right, guys. People who are on YouTube, if you guys enjoy this, you can just click on the description down below and become a Patreon supporter for $5 a month. For you guys who know, I use that to pay for my college and stuff like that. So yeah, we're gonna continue this and finish this chapter today. But yeah, if you guys want to get the full video, click on the description down below, and I'll see you there.